Hey, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. The world just seems to get a little crazier and a little better each day. I think, and the better is people are waking up, right? People are waking up. People that wouldn't even have entertained a thought that our government could be up to some fishy, funny business a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, are now seeing that our government has been up to some fishy, funny business. And I love it. I love it a lot because we need to see it. You know, if we're not aware of the problem or a problem, we can't fix a problem. Now people are becoming aware of the problem. And if you're like me, you're pretty freaked out about it. But here's the thing. Awareness, if we all come together, the awareness of the problem, creative solutions to the problem will fix themselves. Let me just let you know this. And I wrote this down in my Focus and Flow journal for lists of positive aspects about the world. And that is that Biden's disinformation board, AKA the Ministry of Truth, which I love that term, the Ministry of Truth, that board is no longer around to my knowledge because of the public backlash. And that's a huge win for free people. Huge win. That agency or that board, what was it? A board. It was board within the DHS, the agency there, Department of Homeland Security. It was a board within there. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my whole life. I talked about this before when I talked about Brene Brown pausing her podcast to talk about the Joe Rogan Spotify issue, right? We don't need it. It's a waste of time and money. We have real tangible problems in our country right now. People are facing real problems. Inflation, crime in certain parts of our country. California and New York come to mind. Seattle and Oregon come to mind, right? I mean, come on, those things, we don't need silly solutions to problems that never existed, right? But again, I'm amazed that board went by the wayside. When was the last time you ever saw a government agency come online and then go offline very quickly? It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And so that's a huge win. And here's the thing. The reason I write that down in my journal, if you're not familiar with the Focus and Flow journal, it's the 2-step journaling practice that I created to help you love the life you have and create the life that you want. And the reason I write that down in my journal is because, let's be honest, there's a lot of, I'll say it, shitty news out there on the horizon. A lot of it. But there's also a lot of good news too. Because remember, as bad as it gets, that's necessary for it to get better. And I know sometimes, it can be challenging to sort it out. And I'm right there with you, right? Sometimes I just don't, I've told you this before. Sometimes I don't want to live on this planet anymore. I'll take a chance on Mars. Maybe it's better, maybe it's not. But some days I don't want to be here on this planet. I want to go to a different planet, or at least a different country, some country that maybe doesn't have the news, that doesn't have politicians. And I hate to throw all politicians under the bus, but hey, if you're going to run with those crowds, at least do some good to try to clean it up, because, your reputation's on the line too, So, these last 2 years, it's been challenging. Let's just call it what it is. But so there are bright spots. There are bright spots in the world, and you got to write those down and remember them and focus on them. Now, not to go down the road toward negativity, but again, I think it's just sharing information. This is why I started creating the videos where I, pull a news article and read it and share my comments on it. And that's here on the channel as well. But here's the thing. Keep sharing information. Keep researching. Because look at it this way. What have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? If I'm right, that I think we're in a real pickle. And I think the boa constrictor of government, big government, is constricting tighter and tighter. If I'm right, and if other people are right, like I'm not the only person. You look out on the horizon and a lot of people are freaked out, going like firing flares and SOS up into the air because they see a problem. I see that problem too. And make no mistake about it, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to alienate my friends and family. That's not at the top of my list, especially for a recovered people pleaser. That's not what I'm about. I'm not about that at all. At all. I want everyone to like me. I want to get along with everyone because I enjoy everyone. Right? However, given the circumstances of the last 2.5-ish years, that's not going to happen. Right? I've done a lot of things that I never thought I would do ever, and it happened because of 2021. 2020 was fine. I didn't pay attention. I thought everyone wasn't paying attention. I thought everyone was wearing the MASKs just to kind of go along, which was stupid in hindsight, to be honest. I did it to be a good citizen. I did it to make sure people didn't look at me like I was a threat. Had I known better, I wouldn't have done it at all. But at that time, we didn't know. We didn't know. See, I was asleep back then. You know, I didn't know my government would be up to that funny business because I stopped paying attention to them years ago. And I had only done a little bit of research on their funny business up until that point. Enough to make me know that I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to listen to them. I don't want to take their advice. I don't want to take their counsel. And so in 2020, when they said, hey, we got a problem, I'm like, oh, you guys again? Right. I'll get right on that. I didn't think of it for one bit. I wasn't worried about it one bit. 99%. I'm good with it. I'm good with that. Everyone has their own opinion, and I hope you did what you felt was right. But for me, I didn't care. I didn't care about it. It was like, okay, that's what you got. All right, I'm going to go back to work. Some people really cared. I'm glad they took care of themselves. You got to do what's right for you. That's all I've ever preached during this last 2 years. I just want you to be under your own influence, because I get super sketched out when a few people put a bunch of people under their influence. Because if we hadn't watched the news or listened to our politicians, I'll say it, we wouldn't have not known anything was going on. No one would have known. Maybe some people in the medical industry would have known, but remember, the regular flu went away that year. Where are those numbers? I'm going deep down the rabbit hole now here, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but it has to be said. People are already saying it. This is nothing new. 2020 and 2021 was an example of how you can mess with statistics and influence people. That's what it was. But again, some people didn't listen because I already knew our government messes with us. They try to influence us unduly, and they've been doing that for decades. So I didn't care what they say. I still don't care what they say. It makes me mad what they say, and that's why I started sharing information and these news articles for people who maybe don't have the time or, desire to dive into this stuff, because it's important. Canada just did something with their gun laws. I don't know the specifics yet. Something about pistols. It's happening. It's happening. And when my intuition said something's happening in kind of mid to late 2021, I did not want to listen to that intuition. I don't want to be involved in a situation where you have where you have two sides and people are, kind of going at it. It's a war of words kind of right now. And it's a war of information and how much, what's the right information. And talk about misinformation. There's no more misinformation than coming out of your federal government. Whatever country you live in, that's where the misinformation originates from. It always has and it always will. If you think a person with the resources if you think an individual with their limited resources is going to top the most pervasive arbiter of information, federal governments, then I ask you to rethink that. When was the last time a person, an individual, hired the top academics, the top psychologists, top psychiatrists, top social people, top biologists, top neurologists to advise them on how to mess with people and how to influence people? When was the last time that happened? Never. It doesn't happen because individuals know, you and I know, we show up in the marketplace with something that we feel is valuable and we share it with other people, and we don't have to influence them. Yeah, we can write creative copy that touts the benefits, right? Helps them solve the problem, triggers the pain point. But at the end of the day, they're either going to buy it or not. And we have to get better. We have to improve. This is the great game, right? You go into the marketplace, you fail. Go back to the workshop, improve. How can you be better? How can you do better? How can you create something better? You go back to the marketplace, kind of a lukewarm thing then, and you just keep stepping up your game. That's how it goes. Not for the federal government. They're playing a different game because what they're selling is always bullshit and we don't need it. But they have to convince us that we need it. That's how they grow. And I don't mean to be down on the federal government, but they started this. I didn't start this. Again, as I stated, I don't want to talk about these things. I'd love to talk about any other thing than these things. However, the situation we find ourselves in requires that, in my opinion. And my gut feeling tells me that. And luckily, I'm not alone because otherwise I'd feel like a crazy person. I'd still speak, but I'd feel like a crazy person. Let me tell you my favorite patriots and truth speakers. That's Patriot Moms. Yes, you heard me. Dude, and is it any surprise? Is it really any surprise that Patriot Moms are out there on the front lines sharing their truth, making funny TikTok memes and Instagram videos? Is it really any surprise? Moms don't hold back. I mean, there's Patriot dads out there too, but honestly, it's the Patriot moms that are killing it, right? I laugh so hard and I learn so much, and I get so mad when I learn of things and injustices that our government is doing. It fuels my fire. It also puts more things on my list to research, but I love it. I got a whole little list of them and I go check them out from time to time so I can get tuned up and I can learn about what's going on. And that's from Patriot Moms. Just go on Instagram, start following a few Patriot Moms, and then Instagram will set you up with a whole bunch more. There's a whole army of Patriot Moms and they're awesome. You know, I just urge you to keep an open mind. And I urge myself to keep an open mind too. Excuse me. That's the only thing that's going to save us here, right? We got some nefarious people doing some nefarious things. And that's not the world. Our world doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. I wish, and I hope and pray every day that Bill Gates will go back to designing software. I wish he would do that. You know, but people grow in different ways and have different interests. And his interests just happen to be what he's into now, which you know what that is. You know, But it's not going to fix itself unless we get involved, unless we speak up. My theory from the get-go was, hey, if we all started talking about it, and honestly, I think most people are. I'm an optimist though, so maybe not. But if we all started talking about it and sharing about it, because after all, it is the most important thing. People die for freedom. People die to gain the rights that we have. Well, not only do people die, but people did die. People did give their lives for the rights we have. They did give their lives for the freedoms we have. That wasn't given to us. That wasn't a de facto. Our forefathers earned that with their blood sometimes, most times. They gave something. They gave something huge. And now I look around and we're just rolling over. I'm not going to roll over. And I don't consider myself, a frontliner. I already told you, I'm a people pleaser. That's how bad I see that it is. I'm willing to go a place that I've never gone before to speak up and share this. And make no mistake about it. I'm in inner turmoil pretty much every day since I started making these videos. I wasn't before because I wasn't doing something that put me outside of my comfort zone in the way that this does, which is also a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing and a curse. Most things that are uncomfortable for us in life, they do come with blessings and curses. And this is for sure that thing, but I was inspired to do it. And I'm still inspired to do it. Every day I assess using the tools that I have at my disposal. And a lot of these tools are in the Tools for Conscious Creators that you can pick up at my website, gmarkphillips.com/subscribe. They're thought tools so you can fix your thinking. And they're spiritual tools. And every day I go back to those tools and I make sure that I'm on the right path, because I don't want to be off on the wrong path and not do what I came here to do. Because on this channel, we talk about purpose and meaning and your reason for being and fulfillment and joy and what causes you bliss and those kind of things, right? And I don't want to be wasting any time. And so I'm always kind of like, thinking, okay, am I walking in the right direction? And the right direction is, how does it feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel joyful? Does it feel blissful? Are you a little bit scared? Yeah, all those things. But we're all here right now for a reason. That's what I believe. Just like you have a reason for being. The intelligent universe in which we live doesn't make mistakes, and that is God's universe. As I go on my path here, I'm really coming back to replacing universe with God because of the last few years. Yeah, there's another change. I went running back to God because I had strayed, obviously. My whole channel was built upon, law of attraction, consciousness, transformation, thought power, which there's still value there. And I'm reconciling that as I go forward. But this last 6-8 months, a year, I've been super into God. Because when I see the world going cuckoo like it is, I'm definitely going to go find me some God. I don't know. That might be blasphemous. No, I'm super close. So, take that for what it is. Again, another example and I've never been that way. I'm not that way. I don't feel that way. Like I said, I've been really into the new age for the last 20 years. And I'm starting to wake up to that and seeing some different things going down, you know. I'm not ready to chuck it all just yet because I think it can be easily connected. The dots can easily be connected back together. For instance, one of the things that I'm working on is putting scriptures and, God references on my vision board. I didn't have that before because I was trying to do all the work. And as you can imagine, that's not very fun. Even though I knew, like Emerson said, even though I'm going back to use the word God, I'm going to share a quote with you about the universe. Even though Emerson said, once you decide, the universe conspires to make it happen. Or if you want to change it up a little bit like I do now, once you decide, God conspires to make it happen. You and God are working together, right? Team. Or you taking your instructions from God, what you're inspired to do, the inspired actions you're about to take or you want to take, or the inspired person you want to become, and then you go off and do it, right? That takes courage. You know what I think happens? The reason I think it takes so much courage is because some of us, not all of us, and we know these people who find their path early in life, and they establish that path and that being early in life, and it sticks in the consciousness of everyone around them, and they say, oh, okay, that's that person. Well, let's touch on two things. It's challenging because, well, let me go back to what I was saying earlier and wrap up that thought. So when you want to become someone new, well, we got to talk about the origin first. Most of us conform. We come into the world as little kids. We don't give a shit, right? We'll stare right at people. We'll talk right at them. Kids don't care because they haven't learned the social norms that keep us conforming to like an arbitrary illusionary like idea that doesn't exist, that doesn't offend anyone, that doesn't ask questions, that doesn't, most people go into that conformist state. And then midlife crisis, whenever that happens, they wake up and go, oh, I've been living someone else's life for my whole life. Or I've been living a lie because I told myself I wasn't good at this or wasn't good at that, or I didn't look good, or I looked this way, or I had these things. And then you realize, okay, I'm going to start changing myself. However, the way you were is impressed in the consciousness of everyone else. And so you're going to get resistance. Sometimes, most times, subtle resistance from them. And maybe it's two things. They're going to resist you changing because they don't know you in that way, and it ain't anything personal. It isn't anything personal. And two, your groove is deeper. Your groove is deep as well, right? You've been thinking and behaving in a certain way or certain ways for X number of years. That groove in your pattern of behavior and way of being and way of doing things is deep. And now you got to erase that pattern and put in a new pattern. And the new pattern that I suggest you put in is your true pattern, your true authentic self. And you go back to your purpose. What lights you up? What makes you come alive? What makes you feel good? What do you naturally gravitate to? What do other people tell you you're good at? What feedback, unsolicited, is the best in moments when people aren't thinking and they're just intuitively responding to you? That's the best feedback. You got to note that down. And again, the only reason I share this with you is that's where your best life is hanging out. That's where all the wealth and abundance for you is hanging out. When you do what you're built for, that's where life's going to get super awesome. And then it's Stephen Pressfield time. You're doing what you came here to do, slaying the resistance. You're winning. We're winning because we get to see you and experience what you're creating and get value out of it. And we all raise up. See, that's one of the biggest detriments to these last 2 years. They've siloed us off and made us fearful to speak up. That's another reason why I speak up, because it scares me to speak up. But I'm not going to live scared. I've already talked about it. I lived too long afraid to speak up. I'm not going to do it anymore at all. I'm not down with it. So I just urge you that if you have something to say, say it. Now's the time. Now's the time. It's, again, just remember this, and I'll close with this. What if all the people that are speaking up and risking the social connection they have with their friends and family, and make no mistake, it's a frickin' risk. What if all those people are right? What if they're right? What if we're right? Excuse me, I'm in that group. What if we're right? Then what? Now let me ask you this. What if we're wrong? What if we're wrong? What have we really lost if we're wrong? And all we've been telling people is, hey, you should question your government more. They don't always have your best interest at heart. I don't think they ever do, but that's a personal opinion. You can think, I don't think they're necessarily all evil people. A lot of them are just going along, making their way through life, right? Doing their work. They don't want to make waves. Getting paid, getting a nice, pension. That's fine. But that's not going to cut it moving forward. Going along to get along isn't going to cut it. If we don't tune in to what our intuition and our gut's telling us, we're going to be in a real world of hurt. Because make no mistake about it, nefarious people they can and will exploit your detachment from yourself. They can and will. Your power is when you come into alignment with yourself, capital S. That's your power. Then you become fearful. Then you become courageous. Then you don't care who is standing in front of you lying. You're going to question them. I don't care if the president is the president. I'm still going to question that man. And I do. Why did he make millions after his vice presidency ended? Why did he make millions then? Where'd that money come from? Why is he and his son making millions off of these consulting and advising gigs for foreign countries? Where's that money coming from? What are they doing for them? It's a conflict of interest, my friends. That's a huge conflict of interest. All these public officials in the NIH and the CDC and the FDA, you look into the nonprofit organizations that are hooked on to those companies. It just came out recently, and another layer was peeled back. Scientists in the NIH have been getting royalties since, 08, 14, something. Royalties. When was the last time you got a royalty for your job? Never for me. Yeah, bonus. Yeah, profit sharing from benevolent, awesome bosses, but I didn't get part of the 163 million in royalties. These are public employees. They're already really set. Now they work hard, but they're set. Those jobs are sweet jobs, right? They're fortunate to have those jobs in this economy, in this world. People in the private sector, not everyone has that. It's scrappy out here, right? And it's getting tighter all the time. And when we read that these agencies have got private money flowing into them from corporations that they are then in turn policing and monitoring, I got a few questions. I've got a few questions to ask them. And since they don't answer questions, I don't do what they say. Yeah, I'm a rebel like that. Someone doesn't answer my question in the way that I feel is a good way, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. Right? I knew government was up to some funny business when they came to me and were begging and pleading me to do something. When was the last time those powerful, all-controlling, wealthy people ever pleaded for you to do anything? Never. Never. Someone offers you something that you didn't ask for, you need to be super skeptical of what they're offering. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to tell you how you need to be. My bad, I misspoke. You could be super skeptical of what they're offering to you. And again, with the common theme of this episode, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? You know, if those of us who are now super hyper vigilant toward government, if those of us like that are questioning more and digging more and sharing more, what harm is that? There's no harm to that. More scrutiny on government is awesome. More questioning of authority is awesome. There's no downside. None. Other than the fact, as I mentioned, that people are going to call you crazy. Newsflash. That ship's already sailed for me. Like, that is long gone. Hey, I told you I mapped all of it out on paper. I had pros and cons. What if I do this? What if I don't? What if I start speaking about this? What if I don't? And in the in the pros list was, I'm already weird. I'm already odd. There's nothing. There's nothing I got to lose. And what I win is let me try to put this in words. What I win is the feeling, the knowing that I honored myself. I listened to my gut. I did what it told me because make no mistake about it. There have been a lot of times that my gut said to do something or not do something, and I didn't listen. Some of those times are emotional outbursts coming from who knows where, right? When you're even along for the ride, you ever do something, take an action that is so bizarre afterwards, and they usually always crash a relationship or harm it very badly. And then it becomes over with and you're like, why did I do that? And where did that come from? And what triggered that? And where was that, that's, I think, our shadow self. That's our dark aspect, It comes out. We don't heal ourselves. That stuff comes out. It can happen in relationships, can happen in work environments. It can even manifest as a health thing, right? Remember, we're kind of, energetic energy and matter kind of fused into one, intelligent energy and matter. Well, energy and matter animated with the God spark is how I describe it. So it could manifest in any way. But having that relationship with yourself, that's priceless. This is not a MasterCard commercial, but that's priceless. Who'd have guessed? Like, if the world ends tomorrow, which I hope it doesn't, just having that relationship with myself, that's solid freaking gold. You can't even buy that. And all you have to do is honor yourself. Listen to yourself. That's the gift. Remember, the blessing is the curse. That's the blessing of the curse that's wrapped up in the curse of the last 2 years when the world was really super shitty. A lot of people got really in tune with themselves. And you cannot put a price on that. So that's sometimes when I want to get really angry and yell at these politicians and public health officials. They also did me like a huge service. Doesn't mean I'm not going to still, share knowledge and information about them that I feel is beneficial and needs to be known, needs to be shared, that the mainstream media isn't sharing. That's my whole thing about being a citizen journalist. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do that, but they're also here for our growth. Everyone's here for our growth. Like all those silly little memes and quotes that we've been reading for 25 years, they're all coming true, right? Wayne Dyer talks about, hey, everyone you meet is either your teacher or your student, that kind of a thing. It's all true. Obviously, it's all true. Anyway, I hope this message finds you well. If you liked it, please give it a like. If you want more stuff like this, subscribe. There's a bunch of other content all on my channel. Just to let you know kind of the backstory or the foundation of my channel, it's essentially to help people enhance the human experience, have a better life, find your purpose, do your reason for being, overcome fear. And the reason I know about those things is because all that stuff I've done, because of my journey and my path, right? I was super afraid to even speak, like in work environments or definitely in group environments. Not long ago, like, 15, 20 years ago. Then I started, finding more courage and walking that path. Like I said, you're walking back toward yourself. Most of us have walked away from ourselves, capital S, or small s, depending on what your perspective is, the self that we're ashamed of, or the self that let us down when we were 5 before that self knew any better. Let us down when we were 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16 before we knew any better. And then we've just locked that self in a closet and never gave it any love that whole time. Meanwhile, that's a part of us, a wonderful, magical part of us. And we left it in the closet back there in the road. And we went about living our life, but we were a fragmented, disintegrated person. How well do you think your life's going to go as a disintegrated person? Then we wake up one day and we go back into the closet of our childhood and we unlock that little child, give them a big hug and say, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't know any better. I feel bad about this. Let's get back on it. That little kid forgives you. You forgive the little kid. And then that little kid is your companion, your compadre on your journey. So you can't put a price on that. You can't. Part of my belief about what's going on and how we can win this conflict in our country, in America, all over the globe, is by reintegrating with ourselves, doing what makes us come alive, following that gut instinct, whatever it is, however you're built, in order to serve humanity in the best possible way. And it isn't listening to your government. I'm going to be very blunt. Government's job is only to separate you from yourself. That's their only job. Because in that way, you can be controlled. In that way, they have power over you. And that is all they've ever wanted. And it's all they want now. Those of us who've been walking this path for a period of time out of necessity, and those who were already there, because there were already people there that have been at that, point, at that summit for a long time. When this came, we didn't flinch. We're like, oh, they're up to some funny business. I don't know what it is yet, but they're up to some funny business. And you want to talk about a reflection of how far you've come on your journey of personal growth and development? Put yourself in a situation like that. And then see what happens. Because the proof is always going to be in the real world experiences. You know, all this meditation, journaling, self-introspection, all that's fine. But when you'll really know is when you're in a real world situation and you act in a way that is totally consistent and in alignment with the higher aspect of yourself. And you're not manipulated or influenced by silly people. You see through bullshit. You know, and then your challenge is to kind of, I can't think of the word. Then your challenge is to go about your business, not trying to freak out too much that some people didn't see it. Because you know what? You were once there. I was once there. I'm still there. There are people that see more than me. I've always thought life is in continuum. I don't think it's black and white. I think there's levels of awakening, and we're all somewhere on that continuum. And that's why if you're more awake than someone else, you need to have compassion for the people that aren't as awake as you. Because the people that are more awake than you have compassion for you being less awake than them. And they sometimes get frustrated, just as you sometimes get frustrated. But I think one of the keys, if not the key, to get through this is learning to love and appreciate every single one of us, ourselves included. I think that's how we truly win. Thanks so much for listening. I wish you all the best. And until next time, health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.